Welcome to the final episode of Chop Talk.
So tragic.
So tragic, but we're in the stew.
Back in the
We're
stew.
here.
We're back.
We're back, boys. We made it finally. With a camera that really didn't. We could have just done that from episode 1. That was so easy to set up. But we're here. You know? Spencer.
Garrett.
And Ryan. Gonna dive into new movie for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Say
Last
go
movie
out with
for
a
the day,
banger.
but a banger. One of my personal favorites. Seriously, like a cult classic in the sci-fi horror genre. Cube, the 1997 classic,
Sci-fi.
which it's a Canadian. Here, I'll give you a little synopsis of it. It's a Canadian independent science fiction horror film, directed and co-written by Vincenzo Natali. I probably butchered that. About a group of strangers awakening to find themselves in a giant cube construct. Very spooky. It was shot in Toronto, and it had like a budget. We got like varying things on this. I think it's like 700,000, but that's some guy on YouTube was like it was 300,000. So
300,000 to make sense too. From
Probably.
how some of those animations were looking, but you know, you
Yeah.
gotta
it's
roll with it.
1997, man. We got to cut
you
him
gotta-
a little
yeah.
bit of slack.
Still, made do with what they had, say the least.
They need to remake this movie in today's days.
You know, that is actually on the market. Something they want to do. I think when COVID hit, it took a back burner, and then they just haven't picked it up since. But there were plans for like a remake.
Would be cool. I'd be
That'd be dope.
interested.
Exactly. Yeah, we had like 3 sequels. Well, there's 3 installments in the trilogy. The latter 2 sucked. Not worth anybody's time, really.
Were they,
I watched those.
I seen something that they were Japanese films, right? The other two?
I think one of them was. Yes. I didn't read in too much to that, but that sounds correct.
I
As
did
to
not know there were any
something
remakes
I
of it.
got.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's like 2.
I mean,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Should
True.
we jump in it?
True. Actually, adding on to that, one last bit. The preamble to this film, before it was able to be created, they had to pitch this because no one's going to give these. This was like kind of essentially like the first project these guys ever took on, and they obviously needed to pitch it to someone. So they literally did, quite literally, an elevator pitch about a movie in an elevator, very similar to this one. I think it was like elevating. It was some
Never
small.
heard of it.
Yeah, no, you definitely no one has. But that's kind of where the idea came from. A bunch of people stuck in this elevator. One guy was in there, thought, kind of like Cloverfield. There's like something outside taking over the world. Like some big
Right.
ass monster or something. So that's kind of where the idea, like to be stuck in this confined space, kind
Yeah.
of started up in.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Sweet.
All right, we'll go over a little bit of the synopsis for those of you who have not watched this movie, and some of the characters involved. I do not have the actor names because, not to be rude, but some nobodies,
No names.
some no,
No
names.
names.
Yeah, unfortunate. I think Quentin did. Quentin maybe did something, but I don't remember.
Need
his
to
name.
look up his other projects, but never heard of him, never seen him. So
Yeah.
let's see. But he
Never
made,
heard.
he made it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Quentin, Joan Levin. Quentin is like an ex-cop, very abrasive guy, very headstrong. Joan Levin is, I spelled that wrong up there, but Joan Levin is kind of like this smart, like college kid. She's, black hair. Dr. Holloway is a doctor in some regard. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what kind of doctor she is, but she, maybe like some psychology. She's very
Seemed like
kind-hearted.
that was the case.
Yeah,
I'd say. I don't know if it was mentioned or not.
yeah, some kind of doctor.
Yeah.
David Worth, kind of just like this sarcastic nihilist guy. Kind of looks like Ben Shapiro a little bit. Kazan is, better way to say this, I guess he's challenged. He's kind of like this
mentally handicapped.
mentally handicapped guy. He's got red hair, and
Did he really
Yeah.
have red hair?
I think did he? I'm trying to
Because
remember.
I know he was like afraid of red light,
Yeah,
so I wasn't sure.
exactly. It's kind of hard to tell what like their hair colors
And-
were because
and-
each scene
yeah.
was filmed at like this really harsh lighting, so it's hard to kind of distinguish features.
Yeah.
And then finally we had Ren, or it's like
Renice,
French.
Renesse or something.
Yeah, I
There's
think.
something really weird. It wasn't.
Yeah, I think there was a point in the movie where like the guy was, like, I think Quentin like said Ren's.
How is it you know so much about sensors, Renz?
Ren, not Ren's. It's French.
Yeah.
Because it says it on their chests when they get in there because it's almost like a prison. Everybody drops in, they don't know what's going on, and they have these kind of like jumpsuits on with their names on them. Ren's was there, and he has an S at the end of it, and he kind of like looks over at Quentin. And he's like, Ren, Jesus Christ, my stomach problem. Ren, it's French, right? He made a point out of that. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, each of them have their own little quirks that you learn throughout the film why each of them is there. They all kind of have some importance to some degree. But yeah, they kind of. I'll actually go over the first scene just to kind of set it for you.
Set the stage.
It was
Set the
very
stage.
weird, you know.
Very weird. Yeah, what did you go? Before I like jump into explaining it, I totally just forgot to ask you what you thought of the movie.
The intro was definitely strange, where the one guy just drops in, and he's just torn into pieces because he dropped in the wrong cube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the way like watching the movie and like really sitting through it all, it's interesting. I've never seen a movie filmed in the way that it was filmed, you know, because like I think you mentioned, I don't know if you talked about it yet, but the entire thing was on one camera, and so there was only really one angle you were ever really
Mm-hmm.
seeing the movie from, and it kind of felt like you were there in a way, and all these arguments that everybody's having and bickering and whatnot. So the whole POV of the movie, I was like really invested in. So I like those kind of movies because I remember there was one called like back in the day. It was like probably 6-7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was all filmed on like like an iPhone or like a digital camera throughout
Oh,
the entire movie.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Blair Witch.
Blair Witch kind of, I think it was called like Echo or something weird like
Oh,
that.
I think I've heard
yeah.
of.
Yeah,
this,
but
yeah.
I remember seeing that one in theaters, and it was like the biggest mind-boggling movie to sit through because of how insane it is. All just one shot. It seemed like the entire movie on one camera.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this because it feels real. It feels real, and like you feel like you're there, and so you really get involved with everything going on. So that was like my biggest takeaway. So it was pretty enjoyable.
I absolutely agree with that. I think the way they filmed it, although it's like low budget,
Mm-hmm.
it's still really effective for immersion.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they, like you said, it's all filmed on like this little handheld camera, and the entire movie is actually filmed in one set for the box they created. And since we have camera here, I'm actually going to give future editing Spencer some extra work. I'm going to put up a picture of the box here, that the cube that they're kind of in, and you might be able to see some of the framework of stuff around it. But yeah, they filmed it all in this, and maybe if I can find the camera, I'll put that up too. But it's very interesting the way they did it. They had to get these gel plating like panels essentially to change the colors, and doing that, they obviously that took forever to install because they did it manually, panel by panel, and turned on the lights and all that. So they kind of had to segment the movie in a different way. So obviously, if you're going through scenes, you don't do everything, from start to finish. If you set something up, you kind of do every scene that specific thing would need. So, they kind of did it color coded. So everything with where the box was red, they filmed that all in one go. And then if it turned blue, they filmed all those, and green and all those others.
Did not
right?
know that.
I did not know.
Yeah, that was one of the more interesting bits.
Like that'd be hard to do, because like one moment you're in a red box and y'all are all good, and then another scene y'all could all be
Dead at
really,
this point,
like,
yeah.
mutilated, and like, and the actors and actresses, like,
yeah, I hope
having
they
to-
didn't do Red first, because obviously Red is going to have a lot of.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
And
'cause
if you've
there's a
seen the
lot-
movie with us, listeners, you'll know a lot of the Red scenes have a lot of blood and
But yeah,
gore and some bad stuff
that'll be
happening.
a long one to sit through.
I would.
for sure.
I was wondering, would this one camera, in a sense, be the closest thing to a 360? Like almost like a 360 kind of feel, without it being 360. Because if you have all these other cameras, you don't really get to see the different parts.
Yeah,
Because they have
actually.
this. It's a cube, so I mean,
Exactly.
you're like in a confined
Well,
space.
no, I see what you're saying. Though.
Just
Like,
one
you get-
camera. If you have multiple cameras, you're only going to get 2 panels instead of the 4 panels.
Makes
Side.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Continuing on with the synopsis, though, since we went over what we thought finally. Everybody starts, getting acquainted, asking each other questions, and one of the first people to die, actually, after it's found out that Ren, the French guy, is actually a master escapee who's escaped from like 7 prisons because Quentin, he recognized, this famous guy.
Yeah.
And the first trap he went in to test, he essentially effectively just died in. He thought it was fine, and then it sprayed acid on his face.
Yep.
And I actually thought that wasn't bad of a scene.
No,
I think
I
did
I
see
think
that
all
one.
the real effects they did
Mm-hmm.
were definitely a lot better than the animation shit.
Yeah,
I
anything they
mean-
didn't use on that main camera, they were like trying to showcase was definitely you could see the flaws in it in a way,
Yeah.
but no, that one was pretty good.
It
They
was-
did a good job on it.
It was unique. Bit creepy that you just see his face just going away.
Seen out with his acid.
Yeah, and it
it's
was just-
horrible.
It was that scene of just him and his face, like zoomed in on the face for like a minute straight of just deteriorating. It just,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, and
think
everybody's screaming, and it's
Yeah.
an intense movie.
Yeah.
There's definitely this feeling of claustrophobia, and like you were talking about earlier, like the immersion aspect, like that is seriously pretty killer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've watched a few movies like those, like the Blair Witch, and I didn't feel as immersed as I did. Like right in the middle of that movie, dude, I felt like I was there, man. I felt like I was about to throw my shoe into the other room and
Right,
check if there were
right.
traps.
yeah.
I felt like I was right there with Quentin. Yeah, it's definitely very spooky.
So I feel like we need to talk about the like I don't think we've been hit yet like the objective of what they're doing. So like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
trying to escape, right?
Yes.
So- They're in this cube and there's 6. Is it 6? There's not one on the roof, is there?
Yeah.
The doors.
Yeah, there's one on the roof.
Oh, because they can fall through 'em.
bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 6 like
6 doors.
trap doors,
Yeah.
kind of you like have to open and it slides down, and you can hop through them. And on the other side is another cube on all 6 sides,
Yeah.
right? So it's like a giant puzzle that they're trying to solve on how to escape it. But although they think all these other cubes have the booby traps and everything,
Mhm.
so
And there's always this sense of paranoia with that
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
because they still don't know why they're there.
Yeah,
They get in
100%.
there, they're just wearing a jumpsuit onesie, and that's all they know. They like even in the first scene they kind of like explain how they got here. Quentin is
Yeah.
doing his, he's kind of being headstrong and he's taking control, and he's asking, all right, well, how did you get here? How did you get here? Holloway, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Kind of figuring stuff out, and everybody's just like, I don't know, I fell asleep, or like I went to yoga or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like random things, and they ended up here.
I think it goes into the fact of this movie is like off a basis of life almost. Like anything can happen at any moment in your life, and that's gonna be it. Like,
Yeah, it definitely feels like a simulation almost.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're kind of going from like one box to the other, and anything could happen in either.
yeah, you're going through hurdles. If you go through the wrong
Effectively.
hurdle,
some
It's-
some,
it's-
some mean ass
as-
hurdles, but yeah.
as morbid as it is, it's like it's almost like the evolution of life. You're gonna go through anything instantly could happen.
Yep.
Mhm. Agree, absolutely.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of big picture things that they don't really premise at the beginning, but after watching it and everything, you can really see what the idea of the film was to kind of showcase the bigger picture of it, you know. So I've seen a bunch of different theories on what the objective of it was and what the kind of big picture was going to be, but for me, what I really looked into is, you know how you got all these big clashing personalities, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the one outlier, which is Kazan. What's his?
Kazan.
Kazan,
I think
right?
that's how you pronounce it.
The handicapped guy, and he's kind of the outlier of this whole simulation in a way.
Yeah.
And you'll notice. I don't know if we're gonna talk about this now. I don't want to like jump the gun on talking
No, go
about
ahead,
some
brother.
stuff. I'm kind of just spitballing here, but he talked about how it was only 2 people died to traps and throughout the entire movie, and everybody by the end of it, people were just killing each other, right?
Yeah.
And so, what I heard about it was each cube like represented a big corporation in a way, and you go into these corporations and you feel you're stuck and you're trapped. So like, I'm trying to like tie this all back together, but there was
That's what, brother.
something among the fact of, you know, when you're tied in these corporations and you're all battling internally with them, you get thrown into new jobs every day and you have to learn how to work with those people, right? And so you see different situations where Quinn's having to work with one person or another person, and depending on their personalities, they either clash or they work well. And for Quinn, I feel like he didn't really work well with a lot of people, but that's kind of like what it means. And then, of course, the only person to walk out of it was Kazan,
Yeah.
because he was that outlier that didn't ever really get too involved at the internal battles, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He
so,
didn't really have like a role, I guess, in that
Yeah.
I
system.
mean, he was just the genius, but
He was the genius, and he was just there. Like,
Yeah.
everyone else, he just sat back and watched everyone else do.
implode. Well,
Yeah.
True.
So I think it's interesting to tie that all back together, and like there's a you could probably look it up, but there's this huge other theory on it being about big corporations and how they function internally
Sounds
and
interesting.
how it can work. It was cool. It's cool. Good little read.
Sick.
I feel like that's like common. Like, if you do your own thing, you just go on with your day. You don't have to worry about anyone else. If you get too involved, then you start worrying about everyone else, what they're doing, and it's just gonna lead to imploding.
Yeah, imploding. That's definitely a good way to put it. But to continue the synopsis, just so we can paint y'all a picture and kind of
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it all out. there.
No, bro.
Feeling it, you know.
That's kind of the idea of the podcast, man. Someone throws some ideas out and you
I
jump
get
off
on,
of those.
if I get on a roll and I got some in my head, it's gonna
Nah,
come
dude.
out. But
No, that
it'll
sounds
all come
cool.
back
It-
together.
it- yeah, it
It'll
all
come
comes back together.
You'll definitely have to link me that video. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I like how, like, since I've not really watched any of these movies, I watch it and you guys have the synopsis. You guys dive deeper into that.
Yeah, I think
That's
this is
other
the first
people's-
one where Ryan hadn't seen it, right? You hadn't seen The Cube yet?
No, and well, I mean, up until recently, but you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
right.
was never seen it, but you know, I like to dive deeper because you know,
Yeah.
you watch everything on surface level, you think it's good, but there's usually some other meanings that you can really get your brain thinking on, and then you can make some assumptions. Or I'm like, yeah, you watch a movie, you enjoy it, but it's like there's more to it a lot of the time. So.
True.
Or even if it's like a horror movie, you know, like you don't expect it to be like that, but then most of the times you know, there's always something.
It surprises me.
I think the theories are fun, even though they're so outlandish sometimes, but it's like cool to think
Yeah,
about.
that's kind of like my problem with some of the slasher movies, right? You
Yeah.
don't get like that aspect of mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of these end like with that final scene with Kazan walking out into the light after he escapes. You don't actually see where he's going, and there's actually a really big controversy talking about why didn't they show this scene, which there was actually a deleted scene of where he was going, but the director, Vincenzo, I'd butcher that again. He didn't want to put it out because he felt that the white light was a lot more interesting, kind of leaves it ambiguous.
I mean, yeah, you leave it up to yourself on what.
Exactly.
What
Yeah,
happened out there,
up to
so.
everybody else's interpretation, which clearly there are a lot of interpretations of this movie.
Yep.
We found through our research. But eventually as they're going through everything, they're using their shoes to throw them into other rooms. They figure out one of the other characters, Levin, actually is able to is a very smart person, like mathematics wise. So they notice that each box is kind of numbered.
Mm-hmm.
They realize if it has a prime number, it's bad. Do not go to the prime number ones. You will die in an excruciating way that you have no way to describe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. They start relying on that, and the team dynamic kind of becomes like Levin being very confident for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Levin is like, when she tested her theory and jumped into the room first, she had this kind of elated look on her face, and she was just very excited that she was correct. And she kind of is like, oh, you guys gotta rely on me now. Like I'm almost the big boss now because you can't get out of here without me. So she gets happy when she realizes she has worth, which I guess they could also connect to that like corporation thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that, you get that sense of joy realizing, I have worth at this company.
You have power now.
I have power, exactly. Yeah, I am not replaceable anymore. So you'll have to, deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, however, that turns out to be not true,
Yep.
and they were just a luck streak for a while, basically.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more involved. I don't remember the exact explanation for why of it because I'm not a smart math major. I'm hearing Gaylord, so that's pretty evident. But basically, it's like each of the numbers of that could be prime. I think you're supposed to combine them, and then if that number is prime, that means it's bad. I think that's like I'm spitballing here too.
Yeah.
When
Something
she
like
was
that.
first doing them, she was doing I think there was 3 sets of numbers from what I remember,
Yes.
and then she was making sure that all 3 weren't prime.
Mm-hmm.
But if maybe that's part of it where you have to add them all together, and then if that number is prime, that might be more to it. But
Yeah. And I think
Regardless,
that's
it's
how you know it's bad.
Regardless,
I
it's just a
guess.
big old puzzle that's way too complicated. And that's the whole idea of it. So
it's
Yeah.
you could say it's like an escape room, but your life is actually on the line.
yeah,
Quite literally. Yeah.
How could I put like a live escape room? I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know how to put that.
A life or death escape.
Yeah,
room.
it's not-
Yeah.
Because if you go into an escape room now, you're not gonna die. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I've wanted to die from boredom from a few of them, dude. I've been to some bad escape rooms.
I've never been to an escape room, but I
Some
just
of those
get a
are-
concept of
I went to is just mind-rendingly horrible.
it.
I was there for 2.5 hours just in this like it was like an 18th century themed thing. I think it was like with Jack the Ripper. That century's probably off. But you kind of like had to figure out the mystery of who Jack Ripper was, and they had like this chest with a lock on it. I had to call the guy in 5 times to kind of like, how does this work, brother? It looked like a barrel. It was crazy. Anyway.
yeah. I guess it all kind of ties back to that, though, right?
Yeah.
It is like one big escape room, but it's
Yeah, but you can die.
It's hard.
You can die.
It's
Yeah,
not
that's
easy.
the premise.
No clues, just figure it out. you know?
Yeah.
That is true.
So eventually they figure out they've been going in circles because they come back to Ren's body, whose acid face is
Yeah,
gone now.
That's
And, Worth finds him and starts laughing and going insane, which I should also mention. Worth, particularly, there's a big twist where it's found out that Worth is actually one of the people that worked on the cube, but in a way that it's fractured, so no one is really the mastermind. There's no point to the cube. He worked on the exoskeleton, and kind of got that all figured out, but it was completely detached from everything else. So he was just contracted to do this, and he did it, and he really didn't know anything about it, and I guess they threw him in there with him.
That's fun.
Pretty, yeah, it's not great for him.
so he created an escape room.
Well, he created like the box around the escape room, and then the escape room inside, and so he doesn't know what to do in the escape room. He just knows there's one inside of this box. So obviously everybody starts like, oh, you're a traitor. You're one of them. We hate you. We don't like you anymore. Especially Quentin, which is where these kind of the second half of the movie really starts off, where it's like, okay, the traps are there. Obviously, that's like a an important thing to worry about. But Quentin, Holloway, they have a really big, they're butting heads the entire time. Their perspectives, their ideologies, completely different. I think he's more establishment and she's more anti-establishment, science and whatnot. So there's like kind of definitely some conflicting stuff there. But eventually it's kind of figured out that I lost my train of thought. I was on a fucking train. I was just going,
Yap sesh.
and the yap sesh ended.
Abruptly ended.
Let me look at my notes.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
You went into a prime number hole.
It's
there.
exactly. I tried to do some of that prime number math, and then I got confused in the squabble.
Throw your shoe in next time and see if it works.
I should have. Yeah, I should have thrown my shoe at the camera there. Really avoid that whole deal. Yeah. Basically, they all figure out, Kazan is the key, and he is actually a genius. So this whole time he's kind of been, challenged, and Holloway's kind of taken him under her wing and tried to help him out a little bit. Because, he's, I don't know what kind of, he's very severe. So he can't really handle the situations very well. As would anyone. I think I would probably be making those same noises if I was in that situation too, bro, to be honest. That might be too far.
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal for that.
No, not at all. But he's actually a genius.
Yeah.
And to find this number, that you kind of, I believe you either multiply all those numbers together and figure out what the deal is. And he is such a genius, he can do that in his head, which they find out later. So he can do all this insane, incomprehensible math in his head.
Yeah.
And he can actually lead the way to where they want to go, which is when they get to the end, because, they're kind of going in a straight line to just see what happens. They kind of figure out, oh, well, it ends here. They get to the edge of the box where Worth designed the exoskeleton, which is like this big cement thing. It's like a big box. There's kind of no way out from the looks of it. It's just this dark void where Quentin tries to, he's obviously not going to take that. Like, of course there's a way out. There's no way there's not a way out, right? He is survival first. So he kind of forces Holloway to go on this like rope ladder that they put together with their shirts. They'd like tie their shirts together, make her go down a little bit to see what's there. And she starts to get in trouble. And since Holloway and Quentin have been butting heads, Quentin doesn't really like that. So he's like, whoops.
Oops, slip.
He drops the ladder, the little rope ladder,
Yeah.
and she falls to her death. And just tells everybody else it was a mistake because no one else witnessed it. Pretty insane, I think. And that's kind of like the start of him just basically becoming like this caged animal.
Yeah.
Almost like
He's evil.
he's literally he becomes
Evil
the
Quentin.
antagonist essentially, right?
Yep.
Which I mean, I guess their antagonist is really like their brains
All
and like
of
being
that.
stuck in this confined space, right? It kind of activates their primal whatever. Very scary.
So would you say like that part could be like compared to outer space or like the space station? Like you go out, if you don't have a space shuttle to come back, you go out there and see outer space, you're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
You
much.
jump out into space, you can't
Just
hold your
avoid-
breath.
You're
out.
gone. You gotta wait for that space shuttle to come back before you go out.
Exactly. And it is discovered that there actually is a space shuttle. In the there's one box in the entire cube that it acts as like an elevator to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's I was about to get into that. I was
Yeah,
asking about that.
that's So luckily there is a way out, right? It is a puzzle that whoever multiple people design this, there is a way to escape. And I mean, they gave them the tools to do so, right? With Kazan and everybody else. The only one that really doesn't pose or like have a use is Quentin, actually, which is kind of the interesting bit. He's kind of just there as this asshole.
Pretty
Is
much.
this
It's like
abrasive
someone had
guy.
to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So I guess that's like, it kind of makes me interpret it as definitely an experiment that they're putting these people through, but
Oh yeah.
not just throwing in random people. Like, these people are, kind of designed to make it through, which arguably they really do. They do a good job.
It reminds me a lot of just Saw in a way, even though it's not
Yeah,
as
yeah.
gruesome and it's not all the traps set up prematurely, but it's still that there's a way out, but you have like lost all hope by the end of it, and you are with Saw they make you make decisions with the people you're with, and you are all trying to get out, and you have to make sacrifices and everything, and I think it's kind of similar in that way psychologically, where we have to work together to get out of here, and these are the cards we're dealt with, and if we can't do the best that we can, and might as well just give it up.
It basically is Saw minus the puppet. Like,
Yeah.
it's
The thing
if
is,
you
we
can
don't
get
know
out, you can.
the time
Get out.
together. What is the puppet of this movie? Like, because they said there's no big brother or anything watching over.
Mhm.
Is that still a mystery? Is that known?
No, that's one of the more ambiguous things. See, I didn't watch the two sequels all the way. I watched like a little, I don't know, like a decade ago. I watched like
Mm-hmm.
some CinemaSins video on
A
it.
long time ago.
A very long time ago, 2015. Yeah, and honestly, I don't remember much about that, but I imagine they probably covered it in those movies because they imagined that,
I'm like,
they're out of ideas. At that
I'm like,
point.
that's my big question mark. That
Yeah.
they didn't really tell us. Like,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the big up here, whatever's controlling
overarching-
this. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
thing
it's
going on.
like government, if it's
Oh, it definitely
some,
is.
like
You know.
psych, like someone like Saw in a way,
Dude,
but
yeah.
like I don't.
A social experiment by the government to get rid of more people. See if
I
more
mean, if
people.
you're only getting rid of 4 people, though, they got better ways of doing it. So
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to do. That's like
Just
way
take
too
them out
much
backside
going
of the
on.
barn, dude. I don't
This
think
has
you
to
know.
be. I think
need
it's
to pay
some
that
kind
much.
of test in a way, but
It could be a test in like a way. Can people actually escape some of these things that might be thrown at them?
Yeah,
In
they,
a way,
they
how
have this,
does society react? I would say.
yeah, how would society react if they found out they're keeping these people in this cube? Yep, probably not great. But we'll never know because we don't know what happened to Kazan when he if he walked through that white light. Was there just another cube? Like, dude,
A never-ending
like,
cube
bro,
here.
we don't know, man. This guy could have
That-
been in
yeah.
it. That could have been level 1.
no, honestly,
It
nobody
could have.
knows.
It could have definitely.
That reminds me of what you were just saying, Garrett. There was this other, like, not like a rip-off movie, but definitely a rip-off movie of Cube called Circle. I'm not kidding,
That-
bro. It's called Circle, and it's a bunch of people sitting in this circle on like these circle squares, and everybody kind of comes to, and they're all standing in this circle, and like on this announcer, almost like Squid Game. It's like, all right, you got to vote some people off who deserves to die. So they're like, that old guy dies, so and so dies, and drama
What it-
ensues
It's
for
pretty-
the most part.
What is the TV show called where you have to vote people off the island? Is that similar
Oh,
to that?
Survivor?
Survivor.
Is it Survivor where you
Yeah.
vote people off?
Well, I haven't watched that in years. Yeah,
Who's going off next?
it literally is that. Like,
in a circle. That's just.
yeah, and there's like children there too, and like people have to like figure out, all right, is my life worth more?
Oh.
This person has kids. It's like, it feels like a one go thing.
They-
like you maybe like 30 minutes of content, but it's still like a hour and a half, 2 hour movie.
So they put families into the circle, not just.
Well, they put everybody, like, just like kind of figuring out the worth of society, and it's eventually figured out. One person escapes. I didn't watch the movie, but I watched a little synopsis because I thought this was funny. They go outside, removing the ambiguity, and they realize there's a bunch of spaceships. There's like these UFOs, all like covering the city, where like this is happening everywhere, right? It's kind of like insinuating. Like
just,
all
like,
these, like aliens
population
came down.
control?
Yeah, exactly. Like aliens came down to run a game show. Like,
That movie was
Like,
made
dude.
by the government.
I know, that's
That's a
Yeah.
government movie.
Population
That's
control.
not
I
a.
know it's propaganda. It's some garbage. But that was really funny. I thought they, like, that's kind of like the difference there. Like having that ambiguity at the end is infinitely better Because when I saw it originally, I was like, "Nah, this is some trash." I want to know where Kazan went. I was like
Yeah.
with everybody else, but after seeing how Circle handled that, I'm like, I kind of like him just walking into the light.
Keep
dude.
it up to yourself.
Exactly. Kazan made it. And we can hope for the best or the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. I
So-
think that covers our review of the movie. Of the movie Cube for our last review.
Mhm.
I think we should discuss maybe kind of some of our, since this is our last episode, people, maybe discuss some of our favorite moments, favorite podcasts.
I think between the three, we need to rank personal
Oh, true.
favorites based on like production, movie itself. After I don't know, like the in-depth analysis on what's the most interesting.
I need like a refresher of the first movie that we did.
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. Okay. Yeah.
Technically, our first episode was Reddit stories.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
I mean, some of
think
those were
enjoyed
good,
that.
yeah.
I thought that YouTuber story was really fun, but I definitely enjoyed doing the movies more.
Yeah.
Um,
I would agree.
Let's see. So we did Cube,
The
Sixth
Silence
Sense,
of the
Silence of the
Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. I spelled it wrong. I did
You got it. You got it. Yep.
I hate these Mac keyboards, dude. I cannot stand them.
Superior Mac.
Nah, bro. Nah, bro.
Hot take here.
I'm a Lenovo guy. Cool. So there's our three movies: Cube, Sixth Sense, Silence of the Lambs. I think I would rank Silence. Actually, no. I think Sixth Sense first, Silence of the Lambs, and unfortunately, the podcast we're in the middle of doing Cube at the bottom.
No, but they all are good in their own ways, you know.
Yes, they
But I'd
definitely
say
were.
Sixth Sense and Silence of the Lambs are both like, you know, they're award-winning movies.
It's not
you know?
fair.
It's
Yeah,
hard
it's
to
like
compare.
this is a cult classic. This is like a Cube. I haven't met a lot of people that know what Cube even is.
No, but I would say that Sixth Sense and Silence of the Lambs are kind of in similar criterias in a way, but you know, Sixth Sense, dude, nothing can top that.
Nothing,
And like
no.
psychological warfare, you know, like
Yeah.
you walk out of that theater for the first time, like holy shit, like it is insane.
No, it
And
was nuts.
Yeah, so yeah,
I
I,
love
put
that movie.
Sixth Sense 1 at the same rating. Silence of the Lambs 2, Insta classic. Cube's cool. It's got its quirks, you know. It fits. There's some audience. It has an audience. I know people would love to watch it, but yeah, it's just different, you know. It's hard to make an award-winning movie on such a low budget, but they still did a great
Yeah, I
job.
think
with
as
what
far
they
as
had.
low budget movies go, and as far as first time, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
which Sixth Sense was a first time for. There's no way I'm about to butcher this.
You're about
There's
M
no
Night.
way. M Night, bro. I was there.
Just call
I
it
was
M.
there,
Night.
man. It was on-
Let's call him M Night.
yeah,
My-
basically, yeah. It's like debut film.
Yep.
And, yeah, you know, I guess M Night's better. I don't know. Cube was Canadian. Americans do it better.
Yes, Americans always do it better. You know, I would agree with y'all. The Sixth Sense definitely won. Silence of the
I
Lambs
think we
too.
just, yeah.
And Cubes definitely.
I think our discussions on Sixth Sense were just really good, though.
There's
too.
just so much to
Yeah.
talk about with that one, you know.
Yeah, like the imagery and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the shot composition we did for that.
It
That was nuts.
was a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
really
banger
was.
for sure.
I definitely got introduced them to somewhat good movies, at least the first two.
Oh yeah, how do you think? Are you think you're gonna watch more horror movies after this?
Probably.
Yeah?
Definitely gonna watch more.
Oh, good. All
So we'll
right.
see about
We
that.
brought
Yeah, we'll
one
see
on
about
the-
that. Yeah.
Well, hey, we brought
I'm
one.
staying away from Cube as like the
Concept.
the concept of Cube. That was just
It's creepy.
yeah.
I get you.
Valid.
And I totally don't understand it. So
Yeah,
that's the
no,
that's the
it's-
point. That's the whole point.
That's the point,
It's
bro.
up to
It's
you.
ambiguous, man.
no, I don't like
You
that.
write that story.
Nah, bro, I want to know beginning to end, dude.
Yes.
All right. I think that's for our discussion. We'll plug the Instagram one more time.
Chop
You
talk
know,
underscore
Chop Talk
podcast.
underscore podcast, baby.
I'm gonna get some
We're
more
on
content.
Spotify now. All right, so you can go and listen to all of them again, every episode. So give us some more views on Spotify. Obviously, we're still on
More
YouTube.
Spotify.
And yeah, boys,
Yep.
It was a good run.
it was a great ride.
One last time. That
One
was
last
it.
ride. All right. Thanks
You
for
know.
tuning in, everybody.
Scope the
Thanks.
Instagram. Go like, comment,
Like,
share,
comment.
do what you
Comment,
gotta
just
do.
Everything.
Follow.
Rinse and repeat.
You see a button, press it.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow very
Peace.
much.
Take
Peace.
care.